What is up, everybody? You are on the UFC Rundown, and today we're going to be covering UFC 173, Henderson Barao versus TJ Dillashaw. That's going to be taking place this Saturday, May 24th, here in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand. Um, so before we get started, of course, I always want to go out and give our sponsors a big shout out. So, Las Vegas at Las Vegas Nutrition Centers, they always take care of us. Always looking out for us. They have a couple of locations here around the city, outside of Las Vegas Athletic Club. So if you are on the south side, eastern in the 215 by the Las Vegas Athletic Club there, you can find Las Vegas Nutrition Centers, as well as on Rainbow in the 95 at the Las Vegas Athletic Club right around the corner from there also. So just tell them that Fight Life Media sent you. They'll go ahead and take care of you guys. Other than that, let's jump over to our guests today. Chris, how's it going, man?
Real good, Flip. How are you, man? It's good to be
I'm doing
back.
good, doing good. Montes, how are you?
What's up, man? Flip, doing good, bro.
All right. So we have a pretty interesting event coming up here. This card has some title implications based on, some of the guys that can move up in their divisions, move down in their divisions. Of course, then we have the title fight between Barao and Dillashaw. Co-main event is Daniel Cormier versus Dan Henderson, and then in the featured bout you have Robbie Lawler. Sorry, I keep calling the Lawler. That's not it. But Robbie Lawler and Jake Ellenberger. So those two guys are going to be going at it also. But we're going to go ahead and start at the bottom of the card with Jamie Varner and James Krause. So let's go ahead and start with you, Chris. What are your thoughts on this matchup, man?
Well, I think it's a good way to kick off this card. I mean, obviously, if you look at these guys and their kind of their tendencies in their fights, I mean, I think these two guys match up pretty well. I think there's potential for a lot of excitement here. Jamie Varner, the guy's he lately has seemed like he's got a little bit of juice back in his career, which I kind of like. He was always fun to watch in WEC, and it's good to see him getting some wins back. He's been kind of mixed the last couple. I mean, I don't know. Did you guys see his last fight against Abel Trujillo? That was like a fight of I don't know. For the time it lasted, it was awesome. He came up short on that one though. So I think Krause is a guy. He's a little younger, but he's got a lot of fights. I mean, he was fighting in WEC too, and he's fought some pretty solid opposition so far. His last fight, he came out on the losing end too. He had a tough one against Bobby Green, but I think this one will go fast. I think there will be some good slugging. I think I'm going to go with Varner's experience though on this one, and I think he can either win the decision or maybe land a good shot and put Krause out.
All right. So you got Jamie Varner. Montes, what are your thoughts on this one, boss?
I agree with Chris. I think it's kind of an evenly matched fight, but on the note that they're both, I think, struggling lately. They've both lost 3 of their last 4 fights, and so they're not even both ranked right now. So 2 fights, both unranked guys, they're going to be giving it their all to try to maybe make one last hurrah push before they go down to Bellator or somewhere else if they're not turning it around soon. But the James Krause, his nickname is the James Krause. That's kind of weak. I don't like that at all. So just for that, mainly, I'm not even going for you, dude. I'm going for Varner. I'm going with Chris on that.
All right. So the Montes Trujillo is going for Jamie Varner in this fight. We bring up an interesting point. I had an opportunity to talk to Abel last week. He's going to be on our podcast this week. It's actually going to be released either today or tomorrow. But he did talk about that fight and how it was kind of a thing where he saw the opportunity. He saw that Jamie wanted to slug it out, and that's kind of fight that Abel likes to be in. So, it was a pretty good fight, man. I thought that Jamie was doing very well in that fight until he decided to kind of sit there and throw hands with Abel. But James Krause, I think that you're right, Chris, in the respect of the experience. He doesn't have the same type of experience that Jamie Varner has. He's been around for a long time. He's fought a lot of the top fighters, of course. Back with WFC, he had a title. And of course, with that win over Edson Barboza, it kind of had a little bit of a resurgence there. So, his stock is still pretty good if he can get past Krause and he can start building his way back up. Krause, I think, is still young and he has a lot of room to grow. I just don't think that he's going to have it for Jamie in this one. So I think that we're all in agreement here that Jamie Varner is going to go ahead and take this fight. Let's move up a little bit here. We got Takeya Mizugaki. He's going to be fighting. Jesus, my language is terrible today. He's going to be fighting Francisco Rivera. Montes, what are your thoughts on this one, boss?
Should be a pretty good fight. Again, kind of lower end of the rankings, but both these dudes are pretty beastly in their own way. They both kind of look scary in their own way, just looking at them physically. But Rivera, the California boy, I'm not really feeling him this fight. I think I'm going to go with the brother from Japan, and his 4-win streak, I think, will continue tonight. Or not tonight, but you know when.
All right. Chris, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think this is a pretty interesting matchup style-wise. I mean, Rivera, obviously, if you look at his recent fights, the guy comes out, he has a lot of volume. Seems to be a pretty good striker from what I've seen, and I mean, he's finished several people recently, where Mizugaki is kind of the other end of the spectrum. He typically likes to slow things down, grind on people a little bit. He's got a decent winning streak, like Montez mentioned. I think it's 4 fights right now, but they're all decision victories. So the style matchup here of kind of striker versus grappler could be fun. As far as actual outcome goes, I think because of the way Mizugaki's been winning fights, even with some of them being split decisions, I don't think he's getting the kind of credit he may deserve these days, because he has been and will probably be in the middle of the top 10 or in the top 10 at the weight class forever. He's just a hard guy to beat. I think assuming he doesn't get crazy and start winging him too much, I think if he can get into Rivera and get a hold of him and slow him down, he'll continue doing what he's doing, which is win a decision. So that's what I'm going with.
Hey.
So I'm talking, right, without any audio. Is that what just happened? Damn, I was saying a lot of good stuff too, man. All right, so let me go back to what I was saying. I'm an idiot. I hit the mute button so I can move my mic around. All right, so let me go back to what I was saying. Just getting back to it. Takeya Mizugaki, I'm looking at this fight basically the way I was looking at the last fight in the pick. What you're basically looking at is that Mizugaki has a lot more experience than Francisco Rivera. And, of course, I was talking about the wins that he has strung together against Brian Caraway, Eric Ollito Perez, Namfam. And the most impressive to me is the win over Perez, because he was somebody that's been on a tear. A lot of people were expecting a lot of good things out of him. And, I mean, he still has a great future in this sport and this division. It was just kind of a matter of one person having a little more experience than the other. And when you're looking at Francisco Rivera, he has the win over George Roop. It's definitely an excellent win, and it's really going to boil down to whether he is on a tear, starting to get a good streak together against some veterans, or if he's going to wind up being, kind of falling flat against a guy with that much experience. But, it's only time will tell, and we're going to have to wait until that night to see it. But I'm definitely going with Mizugaki on this fight as well. And so we're going to jump into the feature bout, and the feature bout is Jake Ellenberger, Robbie Lawler, a couple of bangers here. Chris, what are your thoughts on this one, man?
And this is an awesome fight. It's kind of, as far as the way it shakes down, I mean, I kind of find it similar to the Lawler-Hendricks matchup. I think there's definitely a few differences, but Robbie Lawler, I don't know if you guys have seen or heard him talk since losing to Hendricks, but I think I think he's kind of a man on a mission now. He seems like that just even though he lost, that just gave him a whole lot more fuel, and he seems like he's really dedicated to fighting right now, and is working hard on his game. I actually watched the Countdown to UFC show last night, and I just think he seems like he's in a really good place right now. On the other side of it, Jake Ellenberger, the guy brings it every time, except for when he fought Rory McDonald. Of course, that was a little depressing, and I think he's going to come out and try to show people that we shouldn't sleep on him, and that he is a serious contender in the division. I think he's going to try to erase that Rory McDonald fight from our minds, since that's the last time that we saw him. How they match up, I think that Ellenberger is similar to Johnny Hendricks in terms of how he matches up with Robbie Lawler. I think that Ellenberger's maybe a little more technical in his stand-up, where Hendricks is going to be more willing to kind of brawl with people sometimes. I don't necessarily think that'll help him that much. I liked what I saw from Lawler in terms of his wrestling and his counter-punching last time he fought, and I think the Robbie Lawler train is just going to continue to roll. I'm going to pick him with maybe a mid to late finish over Ellenberger.
All right, sounds good. Montes, what are your thoughts on this one?
Man, Chris hit it pretty hard right there, and some good points. These two dudes are sick. I like watching fights like this. They're just evenly matched. They're sluggers. They're bangers. Ruthless, juggernaut. Just kind of, list it right there alone as it is. So I'm really looking forward to this fight. I think there's going to be a lot of head jolting, maybe a concussion or two, some blood. I don't know. I hope so. But starting with Ellenberger, like you said, he looked like he was just tearing the league up for a little while. He really looked pathetic his last fight. I was very disappointed in it. But, Rory's no joke either. I think Rory's one of the top dogs in the division too, so losing to him isn't so bad, even though it wasn't a great loss or anything. But he has shown that he can go the distance, and he has stamina, he has the power, he has the takedowns, he can do it all. He's a little bit of everything. His opponent on the other side, though, sick. Lawler was on a nasty little tear of his own. That Hendricks fight was one of the sickest fights I've seen in a long time, dude. Those dudes were just bashing each other in, and there's quite a handful of times there where I thought for sure Lawler was going to knock Hendricks out, dude. He rocked him a few times, and Hendricks looked like he was stumbling. The beard shield wasn't quite working as good, and it looked like he might have cracked it or something. And then he really disappointed me and disgusted me in the third round, where he basically just sat on his fat ass and just laid there and didn't do shit, dude. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? How can you fight like this and then come down to the final round and you're just like giving up? And so after that, I got really disgusted with Lawler, and I'm not going to pick him for this fight just because of that. I think he laid out his own game plan on how to beat him. So if Ellenberger could survive the vicious hits that Lawler drops, if he could survive them, make it into the later rounds, work the body a little bit, tire him out, I think he has a really good shot at winning the decision or being able to just sit on him basically like Hendricks did in the last round and win. So Ellenberger.
All right, so you guys are split down the middle so far. The way I kind of view this one is that I think we've seen what Ellenberger looks like when he comes up against the technical guys. I mean, the really, really good technical strikers. Obviously, he was able to knock out Martin Kampmann really, really quick. But that's the thing. When these guys survive, the Ellenberger's onslaught, they usually come back and do pretty well. When you're looking at, like a guy like Carlos Condit, he got cracked, man. That guy folded over, back turned, and he wound up surviving, and he came back to win that fight. A guy like like Rory McDonald, Rory's very technical, and you were able to see him kind of just keep him at distance and do his thing. I think that Robbie has that kind of striking. He obviously is a little bit more of a head case in the sense that he'll go in and he'll just start throwing and just like letting it kind of go. But he showed a lot of discipline in the fight against Johnny Hendricks, and that's kind of what it's going to take to beat a guy like Jake Ellenberger. I think short of Jake Ellenberger catching him in the first round, really, really hurting him, I don't think that he's gonna have it, in order to beat Robbie. Robbie's got excellent wrestling. It's something that a lot of people tend to overlook, and that's something that he was able to use, up until the tail end of that fight. But that was a 5-round fight, before Johnny Hendricks was able to start seeing more success with those takedowns. So in a 3-round fight, I think that Robbie Lawler can beat majority of the guys out there. I think this is an excellent fight for his comeback. And whoever wins this one, it's basically you're right up there. You're right at the top of the division, and you could be looking at a title shot within 1 or 2 fights of this. So I think that if everything goes the way I'm thinking it'll be, Robbie's going to pull this one out. Probably more than likely a decision. I don't see a stoppage in this fight unless Jake Ellenberger stops him in the first. All right, so we're going to move up a little bit here into the co-main event. And this is the fight I'm looking forward to the most, Daniel Cormier versus Dan Henderson. I can't really say enough about this fight. It's basically 2 awesome wrestlers with great striking going to be fighting each other. So, Montes, what's your thoughts?
This is a great fight also, like you said. Hendo has been in the game for a long time. He has a lot of respect, and we all know what he can do or what he used to be able to do. He's really struggled as of late. I don't like really what he's done much. He won his last fight, great, but he was fighting somebody more or less in a similar situation as him, so I don't really give him too much of a big credit for that. The dude on the other side, though, he's fighting Cormier. He's a beast, man. He's been terrorized. He hasn't really been challenged very much in his career here. He just been tanking through people's stuff, and I think the undefeated streak's going to continue. They look very similar. Outside of skin complexion and stuff, but just their build, same height, same weight. But sadly, yeah, these are 2 little tanks, bro, just bamming into each other and bashing each other. And I think in the end, Cormier is going to be able to drive this tank down and possibly retire Hendo.
All right, Chris, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, a lot of interesting points from Montez. But I agree with a lot of what he said. I mean, when I look at these 2 guys, I kind of see maybe Daniel Cormier being a new and improved version of Dan Henderson. I mean, they both come from really high level wrestling background, and their styles, I mean, are very similar. They're willing to punch it out with people. I think maybe Dan Henderson a little more than Cormier. Cormier may be a little smarter in that regard, but I mean, I just don't. This is a tough fight to kind of call because they are just so much the same. I think the difference here being that Henderson may be, while we obviously saw with the Shogun fight just a little while ago that he's still got some gas in the tank. I think we're going to find that even though they're fighting at 205, that Cormier is going to be a fair amount bigger, but I don't think he's going to lack for speed or endurance in terms of keeping the fight up for the duration. I think there may be some interesting moments where some people take some hard hits and we wonder, maybe someone's going to go down, maybe not. But I think I look for Cormier to fight a smart fight, try to control Dan Henderson as much as he can. I think that's where the really interesting parts will be is seeing how the wrestling shake down when they get a hold of each other. But I think Cormier is it's just his time right now, and I think he sees the title shot against John Jones on the horizon, and I think he'll be able to wear Hendo down and win a decision.
I think that last time I underestimated Henderson. Obviously, I was thinking that one of these 2 guys is going to wind up retiring. They're both between him and Shogun. I thought it would wind up being him, considering that knockout that he took against the Vitor. But now you're looking at something a little bit different. You're looking at 2 excellent wrestlers. They exactly know how to counteract each other in that aspect. And I think that when it comes to being more well-rounded, I think Cormier has those tools. I think that his striking is a little bit more proficient, even though Henderson you always have to watch out because he has a dangerous right hand. But it's something that a good striker, especially a younger guy like him, like Cormier, knows what to look out for. I had an opportunity about 2 years ago when we first started Fight Life Media to go down and do a training session with Daniel Cormier. It was kind of an open workout for the press, and just to see how technical he was with everything that he was teaching, everything that he basically looks for. That Dan Henderson's pretty much going to be the same way because these guys are both Olympians. But the time that he's taken to work on his striking, and some of the striking has just looked so clean against some of these guys with like when he fought Josh Barnett or even Bigfoot. It was just kind of putting the combinations together, and I think that's going to make the difference. I see this fight pretty much going the same way that the Rashad Evans fight went. It's just a younger guy, a little more sharp in what he does, a little more skillful, and I think that Cormier is going to wind up pulling out the decision on this one. What I'm really curious about is how they match up in the center, because we all know that in the clinch, both of these guys are going to be excellent, and I don't think that he's going to be able to hold a guy like Dan Henderson against the cage like he has some of the other guys in the past that don't have that kind of grappling experience. So, it's going to boil down to who has the best striking in the middle of the cage, and I think that it's going to be Cormier, but you can never count Dan Henderson out, as we learned last time. So I'm going with Cormier on this one. I think that we're all in agreement here. Now to the main event of the evening, we're looking at Henderson Barao versus TJ Dillashaw. I don't really know how I feel about this one, but I'll let you guys go ahead and get started. Chris, go ahead.
Well, when they first booked this fight, I wasn't really super excited. I mean, I think Dillashaw, I think he was getting close to being ready for a title shot. I mean, I was more interested, frankly, in the Henderson Barao versus Asuncao fight what it was supposed to be originally, but Asuncao couldn't take the fight because he was injured. So this is what we got, and I mentioned earlier that I was watching the countdown show for this card. What I will say is I learned a little bit about. I haven't really paid much attention to TJ Dillashaw since he came out of the Ultimate Fighter. I mean, he's fought some pretty decent guys, and he's won a couple fights. I mean, I think he's a sharp young guy. I liked watching him work on the countdown show with Dwayne Ludwig, and I think just from watching that overall, I'm a little more of a fan now of him than I was before. And I think he could do really well in the sport in the long run if he keeps on the track he's on. With all that being said, he's in over his head right now. The Barao, we've watched this guy beat up everybody. The guy hasn't lost a fight, and we're going on 10 years now. There's not any weaknesses that I see in the guy. I mean, he can counter wrestle people to try to take him down. His striking is way off the chart. I mean, knocking out Eddie Wineland with spinning back kicks, and just, I mean, what else can you say about the guy? The guy's just a highlight reel all the time, and I don't think the story is going to change here. I think Dillashaw, based on what I saw, I expect him to come out and try to be maybe aggressive and try to catch Barao off guard, and we'll see if that works for him. But I don't see him lasting much more than maybe 2 or 3 rounds. Barao's going to finish him.
Montes, what are your thoughts on this, boss?
Chris, you asked if you could look at my notes, bro. I didn't think you were going to read them word for word. Just messing, dude. Nah, yeah, Dillashaw, he's a respectable guy, bro. He's no joke or nothing. He's made a name for himself in the league and everything, but you guys know he's just a fill-in. He's the company man here. He's taking the fall. He was semi-ready. It's hard. How do you can be ready to fight, but then there's a different being ready to fight when you have to fight this beast in the other corner, bro. It's a whole different mentality, a whole different training. And to be a fill-in like that, I don't believe you can really fully be ready to just step in and fight at this level. But having said that, if I was the fill-in and I was going in there, you're giving it every single thing you can, dude. You're trying to be unorthodox. You're trying to just go crazy, dude, and just hopefully land some crazy thing that no one has been able to do, like you said, for 10 years on this other guy, on Barao. 22 win streak. He hasn't lost since his first fight back in 2005. Barao is intense, dude. All his title defenses have just been, like, not even really close, man. Submissions, TKOs, knockouts. He's a matrix in there. He's the matrix in there. He's a step ahead of everybody else. He's ahead of his generation in this league, and I can't really, say much else about this guy without asking him for his autograph, I guess. So, yeah, I have to be clear. Champ, remain the champ.
Yeah, I think that we're all going to be in agreement on this also, because it's just an experience factor. I think that, I think Chris hit it on the head when he said that Dillashaw has a bright future. It's just not today. It's basically he's a little too green, I think, at 10-2. to be able to catch up to what a guy like Barao has done, who has, even at that, he has 22, wins there under his belt. I mean, it's kind of, actually, I think he has more than that. He has, what's that, 28 wins? It's kind of like, that's a lot of ring experience. That's a lot of time. We didn't know really what to expect from him when he came into the UFC, but he just basically showed that he's leaps and bounds above everybody else. Short of fighting somebody like a Jose Aldo, I don't see anybody really coming close to him. I mean, this guy is basically on top of the heap. And this is an issue that they've been having in the UFC for a while. I mean, until just recently with George St. Pierre retiring from 170, there was nobody even close. With Anderson Silva and everything happening to him, there was nobody even close. And this seems to happen in the UFC all the time. John Jones right now is on a tear. Some of the guys are closing that gap in the 205 division, but I mean, you're just in this weird position in all the divisions where the guys at the top are basically going to be there for a long time because they've just evolved way past where everyone else is. And I don't know if that's indicative of the sport growing a little too fast, and some of these guys just need to catch up, or really what it is. But, Barao's going to be around for a very long time. I don't see anybody, coming in within the next couple of years and doing anything to him. What makes it upsetting is that some of these guys are so talented that sometimes you don't even want to watch the matchups because you already know what's going to happen. So, but, we'll kind of see what happens. I mean, anything can happen on any given night, especially in mixed martial arts. And I'm definitely looking forward to a lot of the other fights on the card. And the Barao Dillashaw will just be, icing on the cake for what looks to be like a pretty good card overall, though. So Josh Boyd's picks, because he couldn't get on due to some computer issues again. He's basically, I think, along the lines of most of us. He's going with Varner, Mizugaki, Lawler, Cormier, and Barao. So, I think that we're all in agreement with a lot of these. Chris, let's jump over to you, man, and talk about your counter move and how that all works, because you've been finding some success in that. How do you see it going for this card?
Counter move this time around. Some of my picks, and I was actually looking at them a few minutes ago before we got on. I picked, with the odds that are up there this time around, Barao's in my lineup, Lawler's in my lineup, Mizugaki's in my lineup, and then I got a couple of guys from the undercard in there to balance it out. But I think there's this one, unlike the last pay-per-view and maybe even the last fight night with the Matt Brown Silva matchup, I think this one's got a lot more potential to pick a good team. Counter move, Fantasy MMA. If you don't know about it, check it out. It's Counter Move, starts with a K. It's a good time. So I haven't been doing. I can't take much credit right now because I haven't been doing too well lately. So we'll see if I can turn it around this week.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to definitely get on there and check it out, because I know I sent you guys the invites for them a while back, but I don't know. I had a couple of runs there where I was just like, oh man, I'm not doing anything at this. I can't figure it out. You know what I mean? But now I think I've gotten a hold of it a little bit more. Montes, have you tried the counter move stuff yet?
Hey, dude, but you just sold me on that. I love fantasy sports. I'm on all of them, but now I think I'm gonna go check it out and read about it and see if I get up.
It's pretty cool, man. You can throw some money down. And Chris, how much did you win last time, Chris? Or that time that you won?
The one time, the best I've done so far was one of the first ones I entered last fall. I can't remember. Oh, it was the St. Pierre Hendricks card, and at one point I was the sole winner of the first place prize, and then a couple of people jumped ahead of me. Because they won some extra points off GSP Hendricks, but I won like $240 for fourth place off a $10 bet. So I mean, if you look at what you're putting up versus what you can get or a share of, I mean, it just makes it a little more interesting. So
yeah.
You should see Montes' face, dude.
Oh yeah, he looks pumped up, man. Yeah, get after it. I mean, yeah, I love fantasy sports too, so this was just like the next natural thing for me to do once I found out about it.
Now, you brought up the fight between Matt Brown and Eric Silva. What were your thoughts on that?
For the time that it lasted, especially that first round, I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. It's one of those ones that when people talk about, man, what's the funnest fight or what's the craziest fight you've seen, that's going to be one that's going to pop into people's heads. Matt Brown, the guy is the Terminator, man. You have to do something crazy to put that guy out. You just can't. You can't stop him. And Eric Silva, I don't know. I'm starting to have kind of mixed feelings on that guy. He looked after the first round and how close he got to finishing. I don't know if it was one of those ones where it was an adrenaline dump or what it was, but looking at that fight and a couple of his previous fights, I don't know if there's issues there, because he says he's trained well and he says he's prepared, and he just kind of, especially the other night, he just kind of fell flat kind of quick. So we'll see what happens with him. I just want, that whole card was actually pretty fun to watch. What I want, even though I know it's not going to happen, is I want Nick Diaz to get off the bench and fight Matt Brown, just because that will be 15 minutes, 25 minutes, however long it goes, of just pure awesome. So
if that fight is to happen, man, you have to make it a main event and you have to make it 5 rounds. That's what, if the UFC is really on it about, giving the fans what they want to see, you definitely do that. You throw that one up on Fox, and people are gonna tune into that, definitely, man. Montes, did you get a chance to see that fight?
No, I didn't, dude. I was slacking.
Yeah, dude, you should definitely see if you can track it down. It is an awesome display of just two guys beating the shit out of each other and going back and forth, and yeah, it was a pretty amazing fight to watch. I thought I couldn't. It was funny because I had just gotten home, laid down for a second, and then literally I heard like the TV, just people, and I like opened my eyes and I was like, what the hell? Like Matt Brown's on the ground, you know what I mean? And I was like, no, and then like just to see like the way that he perseveres and stuff, it's crazy. I mean, that guy, I think he's one of the more underrated fighters in the welterweight division, and he's somebody that a lot of people sleep on, but you just definitely can't take away, his heart and what he has to bring to the table in this division. I love to see him fight a guy like Robbie Lawler. I think somebody like Rory McDonald would be a little too technical for him, but to see a guy like Robbie Lawler and him fight, that would be awesome fight as well. It's just, those are the kind of fights that fans like to see, and that's a little bit different from what is really good for their career, but sometimes, man, that makes all the difference too. If the fans clamor for it, they'll get those title shots. All right, so do you guys have any other thoughts on this card? Anything else that you think we should be looking for, whether it's on the undercard or anywhere else?
I was just looking at the card overall. I think if you're a fight fan, you probably got to watch most of these prelims. I mean, for me, I got 2 hometown guys fighting on them. Sam Cecilia against another guy who's a newcomer. I don't know what that'll look like, but he'll be on the early prelims. And of course, Ultimate Fighter winner Mike Chiesa with what I think is a pretty interesting matchup for him against Francisco Trinaldo. I'll be excited to see how he deals with a guy like that who looks like a pretty decent grappler, looks like a strong guy. I think that'll be a fun one. And I mean, overall, if you look at the Fox Sport 1 prelim along with Chiesa, you got three Ultimate Fighter winners: him, Tony Ferguson, Chris Holdsworth. I mean, I think there's a lot of potentially exciting fights on this card, so it should be fun. And plus, my birthday is not until next Monday, but Saturday night will probably be my de facto birthday party, so it's gonna be a good weekend regardless.
Hey man, happy birthday!
Appreciate it.
Hey man,
appreciate it.
Montes, any fights that you're looking forward to the most?
Basically what Chris is saying, so just not to repeat him, I'm more looking for where the after parties are going to be at. I'm going to be in town there this weekend, so if fighters want to have a really cool dude hang out with you, maybe I can shout your name out next episode or something. Let me know where you guys will be at. I'll get there.
Yeah, we'll definitely. Now that you are coming into town, we'll definitely have to go out and check out some stuff that's going on after the fights. And as far as for the fights, man, we'll find somewhere to go watch them and check them out. And there's tons of places here around town. Interesting point. We had Mike Chiesa in the studio yesterday for the Fight Life show. Him and Anthony Giaquani, and I think those two guys are going to have some pretty awesome fights. I'm a little bummed that Anthony didn't get up into the televised portion, whether it was on Fox or on the main card. He's fighting Vince Pichel. I love watching that kid fight, man. His striking is second to none. I think he's one of the better strikers in the division. He lacks a little in the grappling. That's kind of where his downfall has always been. But if you're going to be if you have Fight Pass, make sure you definitely check out that fight because that's going to be an awesome fight. And of course, all these other Ultimate Fighter winners, man, they're staking their claim basically in their divisions, and I'm looking forward to everything that they have to offer as well. So, without further ado, guys, we're going to let you all go. That is the UFC rundown for UFC 173 from Fight Live. Flip, Montes, Chris, and Josh Boyd, although he wasn't here today. This was the UFC rundown. Peace out.
Peace.